Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Centaurs, the shameless voices of the mechanical life forms. In addition, after Yi Bei's unhesitating declaration of war, the three-bodied creatures were definitely the most miserable. And quote, "How could this be? Damn it. If we had known earlier, we wouldn't have provoked the snake tribe civilization from the start. Now, their location has been completely exposed, and even the machinery race is coming." End quote. "Once the war starts, we'll be the most unlucky ones." End quote. "It's too big, after all. Even if we don't do anything, we'll still be affected by the shockwaves." End quote. "Then what do we do? What can we do? Don't forget that we have the seed of the universe tree in our bodies. If you dare to act recklessly or betray us, you'll only die." End quote. That's right. From the beginning, we had no choice. We had to stand on the same side as the snake race unless the machinery race could safely extract the universe tree seed from our bodies. But is that possible? End quote. "There has never been peace in a war between civilizations. If we are really controlled by the machinery race, the consequences might be even worse." End quote. "Then, I'll go all out." After countless three-body creatures discussed, they came to this conclusion. It had to be said that they had made the right choice. While the three-body creatures were analyzing. In fact, in the depths of the universe, the life forms of the machine race were also quickly discussing this. End quote. "The gene we obtained just now was completely useless. We sent it back to our mother planet and didn't get any results from the analysis. Moreover, this time, we can only fight. In my opinion, those are only life forms at the very bottom. The useful genes must be in the true experts and higher-ups of the snake civilization." End quote. One of the mechanical lives said coldly, "That makes sense. Since you're here, let's fight." End quote. "We've been around the centaurs for so long. The robot warriors we've developed are about to reach the level of 100 billion. During the battle, once we find a planet, we'll immediately perform metal conversion. Our numbers will only increase. I can't think of any reason for failure." End quote. "Then, let's start a war." The mechanical life forms hit it off. Wei Jintian was initially very angry when he heard Yi Bei's cold words. However, when he heard the outcome of the war from the machinery race, he immediately calmed down. Using advanced technology, they cut off the holographic projection information that the snake civilization had set up in the centaurs. "All right, then, let's start the war. I hope you won't regret it." He coldly threw out these words. Buzz. Buzz. In the next second, all the signals disappeared. At the same time, on the mutant beast's side, while they were observing the situation of the mechanical life forms through the holographic projection, there was a huge change. End quote. "Those mechanical lives have disappeared? What's going on?" "They're gone." Some of the leaders of the mutated beasts shouted anxiously. At that moment, Yi Bei was sitting in the main hall. After hearing the arrogant declaration of war from the machinery race, his eyes became even colder. Hoo. The spirit energy domain spread out in the universe. Yi Bei's mental power domain quietly enveloped the entire centaur constellation. The mechanical lives that had disappeared from the holographic projection were actually in their original positions, and they were discussing how to launch a destructive attack on the centaurs. End quote. They didn't disappear. They just used technological means to make the information nodes that the snake civilization placed in space lose their function. To put it simply, they used advanced technology to block their own bodies, so we can't see them now. End quote. Yi Bei said slowly. "Then, Your Majesty, what should we do next?" Caesar interrupted. Naturally, he immediately understood what Yi Bei meant. Is there a need to say this? They would definitely start a war. Those mechanical life forms were too despicable. Did they really think that they were invincible? We won't be at a disadvantage if we really fight. Although they're just a pile of metal, we've tried it before. My body can now completely devour metal and turn it into my own energy source." Wang Wen flicked his tongue and said impolitely, "King, please lead us to war." The golden lion roared. "King, let's fight," Blood Moon said. "Kill. Kill them all. Kill." In the giant building, the other higher-ups of the mutated beasts also reacted quickly and roared in unison. A majestic aura spread wildly in the air. "All right." After a long while, Yi Bei nodded and a cold glint flashed across his eyes. To transform into a flood dragon. It was time to rule this universe and reveal all the answers. Even though the automaton race was strong. However, if the mutated beasts that he led were to display their full strength, they would definitely surpass the machinery race and the insect race. Yibei gave the order. In this giant building, all the leaders of the mutated beasts instantly moved. Walalala. All of a sudden, countless super battleships appeared from the space fragments on the living plant. These battleships were emitting cold air and were extremely powerful. There were countless mutated beasts in each warship. After evolving to this stage, these mutant beasts were not only extremely agile, but also very intelligent. Operating these battleships was a piece of cake. As the snake civilization made their preparations, the three-bodied creatures in the centaurs also took action. Originally, the three-body life form had disguised itself as a planet and was scattered around the centaurs. However, today, they quickly gathered toward the center. Time continued to pass. The centaurs were once again shrouded in the haze of war. However, just as the snake tribe civilization and the mechanical civilization were about to go to war, in the deeper parts of the universe, thousands of giant space snakes had gathered together. They had released their spirit domains completely, and their eyes were cold as they observed the battle. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. However, there was a grave look in the depths of their eyes. Everyone knows the strength of the automaton race. Even in all the universes, no creature is willing to provoke them. Their reproductive ability is too strong. We've arrived here long ago and used our powerful mental strength to conceal our existence. We've been waiting for this moment, a space snake said. And quote, mechanical life forms. Their bodies are made of metal. If they switch to intelligent mode, no mental power can affect them. Let them fight with the snake civilization. When both sides suffer heavy losses, that will be our best chance to attack. End quote. Let's continue waiting. These space snakes quickly came to a conclusion, their voices cold. In the vast universe, countless giant planets were floating. Walala. Under Wei Jintian's lead, the automaton army released a terrifying aura. At this moment, the number of the automaton army had already reached 100 billion. The normal mechanical lives were about 20 meters tall, huge, and aggressive. But the universe was simply too vast. Even if there were 100 billion mechanical lives gathered together, it was not a lot in the vast universe. However, for the entire Centaur constellation, or for a certain star field, this number was still extremely large. Even if a battle broke out, the entire constellation would suffer a destructive blow if super technology was used, such as dimensional reduction attacks. And NBSB, whoosh whoosh whoosh. The power of the snake tribe civilization also moved quickly at this moment. First, tens of millions of super space battleships charged out. Some of the mutated beasts entered the warship. Of course, there were also countless mutant beasts floating in the air with their bodies. They looked aggressive and were ready for a big fight. The tense battle atmosphere filled the entire centaurs. At this time, Yibei left the giant building with all the higher-ups of the mutated beasts. He lay down in space and released his mental power domain. After confirming the location of all the mechanical lives, he quietly waited for them to arrive. My king, are we going to fight them head-on? Asterisk roar, asterisk. The golden lion was in its largest form at the moment. When it stood in the air, it was incomparably huge. In its 3-meter-long form, Yibei looked like a speck of dust in front of it. However, even so, Golden Lion didn't dare to show the slightest bit of arrogance in front of Yibei. When he spoke, his voice carried a questioning tone, and his posture was very low. End quote. To be honest, I've never tasted a living robot before. Although the composition of life is different, the taste should not be too bad. End quote. Wangwen flicked his tongue. His body had also reached tens of thousands of meters. There was a light blue color in the silver-white color, and there was also a faint bulge in his abdomen. Wang Wen's current strength was terrifyingly powerful. If he wanted to, he could rely on this body to collide with the three-body life form again. He could easily shatter the three-body life form. His growth during this period was too fast. However, when Yibei heard these words, he didn't reply. Instead, He turned his gaze to the living tree that had been quietly floating in the void all this time, standing at a height of 10 million meters. The existence of this fellow was comparable to the power of the entire snake tribe civilization. The living tree's vines quietly stretched out in the universe. At every moment, it was madly absorbing all kinds of energy that had spread throughout the universe and maintaining its growth. The surface of the vines was covered with a hard metal material. With a single thought from Yi Bei, the vines of this living tree could transform into a sharp sword or a sharp knife at any time, becoming the most powerful weapon. The more he looked at the living tree, the more Yi Bei felt that he might be able to kill all those mechanical life forms with just this thing. At this moment, his self-confidence grew rapidly. End quote. Of course, we'll hit them head on. This time, we'll teach those mechanical lives a lesson, and then develop the civilization of the snake race well. This universe is still too small, after all. We have to break away from the shackles of the lower universe. End quote. Yi Bei said. The machinery race might have come with a menacing momentum, but Yi Bei, who had evolved into a flood dragon, had long since surpassed this universe in terms of mentality, devouring the machinery race, continuing to improve the level and strength of the snake race civilization, and thinking of a way to advance into a higher-tier universe were Yi Bei's true goals. Yes. After hearing Yi Bei's decisive decision, all of the apostles' concerns were dispelled. All of them were waiting quietly at the side. And NBSB, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, in the universe, as the war was about to begin, the atmosphere became more and more silent. This silence made the mechanical life forms feel that something was wrong. 10 minutes later, the automaton race beings, who were advancing at full speed, finally arrived at the surroundings of the mutant beast army. Chi. In the void, black holes were forming rapidly, and from those black holes, a terrifying aura was constantly released. Your Majesty, they're here. They've been devouring the planets around the centaurs and creating a large number of mechanical lives through the metal inside. After seeing the black hole appear, Caesar said in a low voice. In fact, those black holes were the appearance of the distorted mini wormholes. What was shocking was that each black hole was created by a single mechanical life. When countless small black holes appeared in the void, the scene was extremely shocking. Everyone, get ready. Those guys' long-range weapons are very powerful. Don't get hit by them. Otherwise, you'll be turned into ashes and die immediately. Think of a way to infiltrate them. That's the best way. The Ant Queen reminded. She would never forget the scene of those mutated ants being killed. End quote. Let the ship lead the way, we'll follow behind. Open up all the defenses. Even though the automaton weapons are very strong, we'll hold them off for as long as we can. Also, create as many space shards as you can in this universe, using them to defend against the automaton attacks. End quote. Yi Bei also spoke up. When he was in the Forest of Death, his spiritual power domain was completely released. He had seen how the mechanical lives had slaughtered the mutated ants. It had to be said that the attack of so many mechanical lives was indeed terrifying. However, it was not completely impossible. My king, are we just going to defend passively like this? Caesar pondered for a few seconds and said, read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. With the snake tribe's current strength, passive defense was not their style at all. Of course not. Yi Bei's voice was cold as he said, we must end this war as soon as possible. The living tree will also participate in the battle. In addition, once the attack range is reached, all members of the snake civilization will be able to use all kinds of abilities. They can devour whatever they can, but they must not underestimate their enemies. Their civilization level and creature level are not low. End quote. Yes. After Yi Bei finished speaking, the creatures of the snake tribe civilization grew even more excited. When he fought the three-body creature, although he used some abilities, they were all used separately and didn't have much impact. But it was different now. In the universe, almost all the mutated beasts were gathered together. If they attacked at the same time, hundreds of billions of them would die. It was terrifying just thinking about it. In the wormhole, Wei Jintian and the other automaton life forms had been communicating with each other through a special signal frequency. Everyone, I'm sure you have a good idea of the snake tribe civilization? End quote. Their technology and combat power have gone through several flights in a short period of time. Especially at the core, there's a universe tree, and it's under the control of the snake race through some unknown means. Other than that, they also have a spaceship that's beyond our knowledge. It's made of high-level metals from the universe, and it's a terrifying existence that can kill a flood dragon with one strike. So this time, we have to be careful. Remember, our ultimate goal is, it's not a real war, but to obtain the genes of those high-level creatures and use them to decipher. Therefore, during the process of the war, all mechanical lives that have the opportunity to obtain genes should open the wormhole and retreat immediately. Understand, Wei Jintian said in an extremely serious tone just as the battle was about to begin. End quote. In addition, once you find an enemy, don't hesitate. Their attack methods are very powerful, so just launch the most powerful attack. End quote. The other mechanical life forms at the side spoke. The war is about to begin. Get ready. His voice was cold. Chi. Finally, all the grand automaton beings charged out of the wormhole. But, just as they rushed out of the wormhole and were about to sweep through the entire galaxy, they were all stunned. Yes, he was stunned. This included Wei Jintian. Previously, they had used technological means to block their own information, making it impossible for the snake civilization to detect them. However, this behavior would also cause them to lose the exact location of the creatures from the snake civilization. So, when they came out of the wormhole, they were all dumbfounded to find that they were surrounded by mutant beasts. We've been surrounded? A mechanical life form said hesitantly. End quote. This is impossible. How did they know our movements? There were also other paths of life. End quote. Even spiritual power can't detect it. How did they do it? Even Wei Jintian was amazed. However, they quickly reacted. No matter what, since we're all here, let's start a war. Wei Jintian quickly spoke. Then, he took a step forward, looked in Yi Bei's direction, and immediately said, "Who is the real leader of the snake civilization? Are you really not going to consider our previous request?" To be honest, after being surrounded, Wei Jintian and the other mechanical lives were still very hesitant. After all, the atmosphere was too strange after being surrounded. But, as soon as Wei Jintian finished speaking, Yi Bei's cold voice rang out in the minds of all the mutated beasts. End quote. Don't waste your breath on them. Let's start the battle. End quote. Yes. Hoo. In an instant, all the mutated beasts released a terrifying killing intent. Swish, swish, swish. Countless supercosmic warships were charging up at this moment. At the same time, some of the mutated beasts opened their mouths wide, while others stared with wide eyes. Boom, boom, boom. The flames of war spread out in an instant. The machinery race beings who had just rushed out of the wormhole were already completely dumbfounded. When they saw the snake race civilization start to attack, they were even more dumbfounded. War. End quote. They opened fire. How dare they? Bastard, what are they trying to do? Kill. When they finally reacted, the machine race beings all started shouting. At this moment, Wei Jintian's body was even emitting an icy cold killing intent. In his opinion, he was giving the snake civilization one last chance and wanted to negotiate. However, the snake civilization didn't give him any face at all. This was definitely looking down on him. Everyone, listen up. Don't be afraid. It doesn't matter even if you're hit. As long as there are enough metal elements in this universe, we can immediately replicate new life. Let's attack together and kill as many as we can. Wei Jintian ordered. And NBSB, Hong Long. Boom. In the deep universe, the flames of war were fully ignited. The battle power that the automaton race beings displayed at this moment was extremely terrifying. On Yi Bei's side, he could clearly see everything through his mental power domain. For example, Wei Jintian. After the battle began, a layer of armor appeared on the surface of this guy's body. It seemed to be indestructible, and on the armor, there were more than a dozen weapon launch ports. Terrifying beams of light continued to shoot out from the firing port. Furthermore, that light beam clearly contained the power of space. When it was launched, the space along the way was shattered into pieces. When it hit the snake tribe civilization creatures, if it hit part of their bodies, the part that was hit would be annihilated. If it were to be hit directly, the mutated beast would die almost instantly, and there would be no time for it to revive. Swish, swish, swish. What did it mean for 100 billion mechanical lives to launch such an attack at the same time? In an instant, it was as if the entire Centaur constellation was shaking madly, as if it would collapse at any moment. Wherever the light rays passed, the space would shatter, forming terrifying black holes. Some of the nearby three-body life forms exploded directly under the impact of this attack. However, their explosions themselves could produce extremely terrifying power. At this time, after the explosion, the energy was almost instantly devoured by the black hole in the void, and it did not cause any impact at all. The mechanical life form was too powerful. If it had been 3 months ago, if the Snake Tribe civilization were to face these life forms, they would have almost no chance of winning. It was estimated that in less than a minute, they would be completely annihilated. However, it was different today. Facing the automaton race's frenzied attacks, a large number of super spaceships immediately blocked at the front. Walala! At this moment, the living tree that was floating in the void began to shake its vines wildly. Each vine became a hard shield, blocking in front of it. It was also extremely excited as it waved. After all, those mechanical lives were also energy supplies for the living tree. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. Just think about it. If these living plants were to absorb all of these mechanical lives, the defense on the surface of their bodies would undoubtedly be strengthened by many times. Most importantly, these mechanical lives were not ordinary intelligent lives. If he devoured them, he might be able to obtain other benefits. The haze of war completely shrouded them. After everything was ready, the Snake Tribe civilization also began to move. Two different civilizations stood against each other in the void, and war began. Living tree, in the space fragment. In the spatial fragment of Earth. Although humanity had suffered a devastating blow, after 3 months of rest and reorganization, the number of humans in the Human Federation had increased to more than 500,000, and a small political organization had been re-established. This time, Guyu was naturally the well-deserved leader of the Federation. Just as the snake race civilization was about to go to war with the machinery race in the universe, Guyu was having a meeting with some of the human upper echelons. Guyu's expression was cold. The higher-ups of the human race felt the same way. The number of humans is too small, so the king told me in advance that humans don't need to participate in this battle. What do you think of this? Guyu spoke, her voice incomparably cold. Many of the human upper echelons, who had originally been solemn, were overjoyed when they heard this. The former president of the United States even said, and quote, "That's great. Our king is indeed a man of great righteousness. The number of humans is indeed too small. If we go to war, everything we've worked hard to develop for the past 3 months will all be in vain." End quote. End quote. That's right. That's right. This time, we must thank the king. End quote. At least they didn't attack us humans, sigh. Many of the higher-ups had looks of lingering fear. However, at this time, the former head of China suddenly said, and quote, "Yes, there are too few humans. To a certain extent, we have become protected animals in the snake civilization. Yes, just like the giant pandas in human civilization, we will even be kept in captivity for other races to visit and collect tickets." End quote. After he finished speaking, all the human leaders present were stunned, and cold sweat kept pouring out of their foreheads. Yes, it was highly possible. After all, that was what humans did in the past. And quote, "This isn't a good thing. The king doesn't believe in our strength. Remember, many times, war doesn't mean only sacrifices. When we defeated the tri-body civilization, the creatures of other races all benefited greatly and became extremely powerful. Every creature even obtained a large amount of resources. Back then, we didn't participate either. The other creatures became stronger and stronger, and the status of humans in the snake civilization only became lower and lower. Is that good?" Guyu spoke, her voice frighteningly cold. Who? After these words were said, the bodies of the high-ranking human officials in the Federation trembled. Indeed, Guyu's words made a lot of sense. Not allowing humans to participate in the war was not a good thing at all. As time passed, the resources and information were unequal. Humans would only become weaker and weaker. They might even lose all their status in the snake tribe civilization and become rare pets. Miss Guyui, what should we do in the future? One of the higher-ups finally realized the seriousness of the matter. After a moment of silence, he asked carefully, and quote, "We must think of a way. If he's really the weakest, we'll never have any hope." End quote. Continue to increase the number of humans. When the number is sufficient, apply to the king to join the battle. Miss Guyu, you're a human and one of the few apostles. There's still hope for us humans. Yes. These human upper echelons then said so one after another. At the same time, in the meeting room, there was also a holographic projection. The situation inside was exactly the confrontation between the snake race and the machine race. After the video was projected onto the screen, the entire scene had been shrunk countless times. He only saw that both sides were densely packed with troops and warships. He was surrounded by the vast and endless universe. This scene was much more shocking and real than the sci-fi movies that humans had imagined. They're really going to fight. End quote. This time, the snake civilization will still win, right? End quote. Of course, at least since the establishment of the snake civilization, it has never failed. And just today, the king has finished evolving and has come out in person. I don't know how powerful he is. End quote. End quote. And that living tree floating in the void. It's unbelievable. That thing was actually created by us humans. If the snake civilization didn't appear and they were allowed to grow, I guess humans would have been destroyed as well. End quote. When one of the higher-ups said this, the former president of the United States twitched his mouth a few times. Back then, the living plants and mutated beasts were all the work of the US. It was just that the humans who planned those things probably never dreamed that they were the culprits who completely destroyed the Earth. But, based on the current situation, destruction was a whole new beginning. After all, the current level of technological development and the quality of living beings were many times more powerful than during the human rule. In just a few years, the entire civilization had advanced by more than 10,000 years. While these humans' thoughts were constantly changing, outside, in the universe, the confrontation between the snake race civilization and the machinery race had already begun. Roar, roar. Golden Lion was very strong. His physical fitness was probably second only to Yi Bei's, and he was much stronger than Wang Wen. After the war started, Golden Lion took the lead. He let out a roar. Its huge body turned into a ray of light and instantly rushed to the front of the warship. Bang, bang, bang. The mechanical life's attack power was very powerful. However, it was strange that after those attacks hit Golden Lion's body, although there were wounds and blood splattered everywhere, they almost recovered almost instantly. Yi Bei hovered behind her. When he saw this, his eyes lit up. Mechanical life forms were level 12 life forms, and they were level 12 civilizations. Their attacks couldn't cause Golden Lion any death. Based on this point alone, Yi Bei could analyze that, with the help of a large number of resources, Golden Lion's body was probably already above level 12. And NBSB, whoosh whoosh whoosh. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. Just as Yi Bei was thinking this, the other apostles also took the initiative to attack. The blood moon flapped its wings, and just like the legendary Kuan Peng of human civilization, it covered the sky and the sun. Its huge body soared in the universe, turning into a terrifying black flash. Wang Wen, Chun, Hua, Qiu, Yu, Sun, Huan, Zhua, and Le. All of them also moved out. Caesar bared his teeth and leaped into the void. In an instant, the terrifying power displayed by the snake tribe civilization shook the mechanical life forms. The universe was filled with shattered space. There were terrifying beams of light everywhere. Bang, bang, bang. When some of the light beams hit the surface of the superspace battleships, there was a constant cracking sound. It had to be said that the snake civilization's current warships had very strong defenses. Those light beams couldn't even break through the defenses of the snake civilization's warships. As time passed, those warships were getting closer and closer. On the other side, the automaton life form clearly didn't expect such an outcome. This was especially true for Wei Zhentian. He stood in the void, and when he saw this scene, his eyes widened. And quote, "That's impossible." Every attack from our weapons has a spatial effect, and they can even tear apart the void. If they hit those battleships, no matter how strong their defenses are, Yi Bei should have destroyed them." End quote. His voice was very cold. However, after he said this, Wei Jintian's body froze, as if he had thought of something extremely terrifying. His eyes widened as he continued. Could it be that they have already developed a defensive method that can resist spatial weapons? That's impossible. Their civilization level is so low. How could they develop so fast? Wei Jintian was not the only one who was shocked. The other 9 automaton race beings that had come from another star field were also shocked. As for the mechanical life forms that were quickly created in the Centaur constellation, they had just taken shape. Although they were very intelligent, they had not mastered the core of the machinery race. At this moment, they did not realize that something was wrong. They still used their bodies as weapons and shot crazily without caring about the energy source. In the void of the universe, flames were constantly burning. End quote. It's not just their battleships that can't pierce through them. Our attacks hit many of their bodies, but they still recover quickly and can't be killed. End quote. End quote. This state of existence and physique is not inferior to our automaton race at all. End quote. They're getting closer and closer. We can't let them get close. Otherwise, we'll have to fight them at close range. That's not good for us. Think of a way. Then let's split up. End quote. Absolutely not. They outnumber us by a lot. If we split up, we'll definitely be defeated one by one. End quote. The voices of the automaton race were endless. But the battlefield was constantly changing. While they were talking, an accident happened. Roar. Yi Bei's body disappeared from the sky, and he first entered the forest of death. Then, using the forest of death as a medium, he completed the spatial movement in the blink of an eye. His speed far exceeded the speed of the mutated beast army. His 3-meter-long body appeared in front of Wei Jintian and in the middle of the machinery race army. The machine race members and Wei Jintian, who had been in a heated discussion, were completely dumbfounded when they saw this. Especially at a time like this. Yi Bei's body was only 3 meters tall. Furthermore, he had concealed all of his aura, making him look like an ordinary wild beast without any sense of threat. Your name is Wei Jintian, right? To be honest, your body size is very different from the information implanted in Earth's civilization. Of course, there are similarities. You're also a villain. As the atmosphere became extremely strange, Yi Bei quietly floated in front of Wei Jintian and slowly spoke. You're looking for death. Although she couldn't figure out why Yi Bei would appear here directly and why he was so bold. However, Wei Jintian could not be bothered to explain himself when faced with such a question. He growled. After coming to his senses, the huge metal fist unceremoniously swung towards Yi Bei. Megatron's body was hundreds of meters tall. Yi Bei, who was only 3 meters long, was no different from an ant in front of him. After this punch was thrown, Wei Jintian felt that Yi Bei would be smacked into a pulp of flesh. The surrounding mechanical life forms also felt the same way. Boom. But, just as it was about to hit, there was a huge explosion in the void. The space around Yi Bei's body shattered with a loud bang, caused by the aftermath of Wei Jintian's power. As for Yi Bei himself, to the shock of countless mechanical lives, he only gently extended a claw and clenched it into the shape of a fist. Then, 2 fists of completely different sizes collided. Yi Bei didn't retreat in the slightest. At this moment, Wei Jintian's arm was as soft as tofu. Crack, crack, crack. Kacha, kacha, it exploded on the spot. This, as a metallic life form, under normal circumstances, they wouldn't feel any pain. But this time, when he saw his arm explode, Wei Jintian also felt a heart-wrenching pain. When he looked at Yi Bei, his eyes were filled with disbelief. He could not figure it out. The surrounding mechanical life forms could not figure it out either. In the distance, the mutated beasts that were rushing over were all shocked. This was especially true for Golden Lion, Wang Wan, and Caesar. Initially, when Yi Bei had appeared directly in the machinery race, they had been a little worried. They were afraid that Yi Bei would be surrounded and in danger. But through technological means, when they saw Yi Bei punch out just now, they were really stunned. King, isn't this too amazing? Using such a small body to fight against that automaton race being? End quote. I don't know why, but I feel like this scene is too harmonious. It's completely unimaginable. The king is now a small flood dragon, not using his body to fight, but extending his claws and clenching them into the shape of a fist. End quote. This power is truly terrifying. End quote. That automaton race being must have been scared silly. Such a big fellow still isn't King's match. Even if he runs away, he'll probably have a mental trauma in the future. You won't be able to recover for a lifetime. The king has returned this time, and I can't sense his aura anymore. But without a doubt, the king has become even more powerful and even more terrifying. While the mutated beasts were stunned, they kept making noises. After all, the scene just now was too unbelievable. It wasn't just the mutated beasts, even the space snakes outside the centaurs were stunned. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. Automaton life forms were the pinnacle existences of the entire universe. Although they were not very powerful in this universe, they were still level 12 life forms. A casual punch from them could even shatter the void. In the end, the huge mechanical life was defeated by a creature that was only 3 meters tall. How strong is the creature from the snake civilization? What's his level? Who can tell? After a long while, one of the space snakes finally stuck out its tongue. When it said this, its voice trembled with a hint of fear. In the air, Yi Bei watched as one of Wei Jintian's arms was completely shattered. However, he was very relaxed. End quote. It seems that my strength is not bad. This body is also strong enough. End quote. He opened his mouth and said with satisfaction, Walalala. Originally, Yi Bei had been surrounded by a large number of machine life forms. Now, all of them retreated and scattered, maintaining a distance of at least 10,000 meters from Yi Bei. In the middle, Wei Jintian did not leave. Although the arm was completely destroyed, the shattered metal pieces reassembled in the next second. However, at this moment, Wei Jintian's expression was much more solemn, and when he looked at Yi Bei, he was also much more vigilant. End quote. Unbelievable, you're very powerful. You can store such a huge amount of power in such a small body. However, you're undoubtedly seeking death by coming here without permission. End quote. Wei Jintian's voice was extremely cold when he said this. Yi Bei was a threat to him. At that moment, he had already made up his mind that he absolutely couldn't let Yi Bei leave. At the same time, Wei Jintian was certain. Yi Bei's physique was much stronger than the genes of the mutated ants they had captured before. End quote. All beings of the machine race, listen up. No matter what price we have to pay, we must kill this guy. His genes can definitely investigate the situation. End quote. The next moment, Megatron quickly issued an order to all the machinery race beings that had invaded the Centaur constellation. Chi. After the order was given, Yi Bei, who was still hovering in the air, could clearly feel the terrifying killing intent emanating from his surroundings. Boom, boom, boom. Whoosh, whoosh. Swish, swish, swish. Almost instantly, millions of machine life forms locked onto Yi Bei. Then, their bodies transformed into weapons and shot wildly in his direction. As for Wei Jintian, just as those weapons were about to hit him, he tore through the void and hid inside. End quote. I can use this to test my strength. Besides, I can also devour their attacks. End quote. Yi Bei sat there. Facing the siege of these mechanical lives, he did not dodge. Instead, he opened his mouth slightly. And in another place, when Golden Lion and Wang Wen saw this scene, they were furious to the extreme. Roar. Speed up. Those automaton beings are too shameless. They're actually surrounding King. The Golden Lion roared in anger. End quote. Let's rush over directly. Use spatial jumps and small wormholes. I'm going to devour them all. End quote. Wang Wen flicked his tongue and his voice was filled with killing intent. Kill. The Blood Moon was the fastest, and it was also the first to charge. After he was able to soar in the universe, the entire universe seemed to have become his territory. He flapped his wings and covered the sky. The attacks of the machine race might be able to cause terrifying wounds on his body, but they were unable to hit his vital parts. His recovery ability was also extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, this fellow had charged into the midst of the machine race beings. Crack, crack, bang, bang, bang. Uft, uft. Those sharp claws scratched at the bodies of the automaton race beings, and the tough automaton life forms were actually shattered. The edges of the wings were like sharp blades that charged into the machine race beings. With a single stroke, countless machine race beings were cut in half. But, from another perspective, the Blood Moon's attack power was indeed terrifying, but the automaton race was also very powerful. A living tree inside the Earth's space fragment. Guyu led a group of mankind's high-ranking officials to watch the battle through the holographic projection. Countless lives had been lost in the momentary confrontation. And quote, they're really powerful. When their physical bodies enter the universe, they can even shoot out flames and lasers. Especially the Blood Moon Apostles, when they spread their wings, they can cover the sky and the sun. They're no different from the legendary Kuan Peng in our human civilization, right? And quote, this world is really terrifying. If you think about it seriously, during the time of our human civilization, science fiction, anime, and even literature have long been infiltrated by other civilizations. Machinery is like Transformers, and the tri-body civilization really exists. Do you think aliens, even those legendary mages, the myths of our Chinese country, or the gods and immortals of the West all exist? The former leader of China muttered to himself as he watched the shocking scene. You don't say? At first, the other human upper echelons were watching the holographic projection and feeling the cruelty of the war. After hearing this, they were all stunned and fear appeared in their eyes. End quote. The beast god civilization, the three-body civilization, and the machinery race have all appeared. Moreover, the creatures of the snake civilization are extremely strong now, not much different from those in the myths and legends. Therefore, I feel that some of the powerhouses in the myths might really exist. However, there's one thing I don't understand. Our Earth civilization was so weak in the past. What was there that was worth their attention? The golden-haired president frowned. The living tree was created by humans, right? Moreover, the first mutated beasts were also created by human technology, right? Perhaps to us, Earth is useless, but to other civilizations, it's different. It's just that we haven't found the answer yet. The Russia emperor spoke, and his words hit the nail on the head. Guyu had been listening quietly from the side the entire time. She wasn't very interested in those legends and cultural implantation, but she knew very well that she had to pass on this information to Yi Bei as soon as possible. Perhaps that might really be the case. After a long while, when the humans' high-ranking officials were almost done with their discussion, Guyu's voice was heard. And quote, sort out these things. Although humans are not qualified to participate in this war, they can at least do something for the snake tribe civilization. Otherwise, in the long run, the status of humans will only get lower and lower. End quote. Yes. Yes. Guyu's words made sense. The high-ranking officials of mankind nodded in agreement. And in the universe, read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. Blood Moon, Golden Lion, Wang Wen, Caesar, the Ant Queen, and the other apostles took the lead and rushed into the machinery race. They started devouring crazily. They opened their mouths one by one, tearing and devouring as they did so. Moreover, their judgment was not wrong. Even though they couldn't be killed, once they were devoured, they would disappear completely and become a part of the mutated beasts, becoming the purest energy. After obtaining such a result, the apostles passed the message to all the mutated beasts at once. In the depths of the void, the war between the snake race civilization and the machinery race had started. When the first batch of apostles charged in and devoured a portion of the automaton race, the mutated beasts hiding behind the super cosmic warship all heard the voices of the apostles. And quote, everyone, we've already tested it. Although the automaton race's entire body is made of metal, they can still be devoured. Moreover, their body stores a very high amount of energy. The taste isn't much, but they're much stronger than three-body life forms. There's a limit to their numbers. First come, first served. Whether they can evolve even stronger, the opportunity is right in front of us. End quote. The one who said this was naturally Caesar. At his level of evolution, the voice was instantly heard in the minds of most mutated beasts. When all the apostles spoke in unison, the entire army of mutated beasts received the news. When the war started, the mutated beasts were slowly advancing through the superspace battleships. They were always worried that they would be hit by the attacks of the machinery race. Some of the creatures that could not move freely. After facing the temptation of evolution, they no longer wasted time. The mutated beast's infinite devouring power was not only limited to the body, but also some space fragments and attack energy. They became unscrupulous. They went crazy. They were definitely much more terrifying than the automaton race. Roar, roar. All of them opened their mouths and let out loud roars. Swish, swish, swish. The automaton race beings continued to attack. Some mutated beasts were hit directly and turned into ashes on the spot, disappearing in the universe. However, many more mutated beasts opened their mouths and swallowed all the attacks. A huge amount of energy was flowing in their bodies. This devouring made them stronger and faster. At the same time, the mechanical life forms felt an unprecedented fear. How is that possible? The golden robot roared. Are they not afraid of death? They were all intelligent creatures. What gave them the courage to charge forward like this? It's too scary. And quote, it can even devour an attack. That's an attack that can even tear the void apart. And quote. If this goes on, we might be able to get rid of some creatures from the snake civilization, but the rest will only get stronger. We'll all be finished when they rush over. End quote. Quick, send all the information here back to the mother planet. At this moment, countless mechanical life forms were shouting crazily. At the same time, all sorts of wavelengths were rapidly flowing through the void. Very quickly, the news of what happened here spread to another star field. That star field was filled with ice-cold metallic life forms. Metallic planets were floating in the air, emitting a cold aura. When the signal was sent here, Chi. One of them was a huge metal planet that was 10 times the size of Earth, and its entire body was making a sizzling sound. Soon, an extremely cold voice came out of it. End quote. The snake civilization's power is truly beyond our expectations. Their devouring ability can even completely digest the bodies of our mechanical life forms. Although the attacks of the machinery race can kill them, if this goes on for a long time, our machinery race will definitely fail. End quote. After the sound was heard, the entire star field trembled slightly. Then, what should we do? Another voice sounded. Let them continue fighting. Using their deaths to exchange for more information about the snake civilization is fine too. If he could obtain a portion of the gene, it would be worth it. In any case, as long as this universe still exists, our automaton race will never be exterminated. Yes. The order was quickly given. Centaurs. When Yi Bei was surrounded and attacked by countless machinery race beings, he didn't even try to dodge. He allowed those attacks to hit his body. Tap, 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 tap. He could even hear the tapping sound coming from his body when he hit it. However, his body had not suffered any injuries. End quote. When a high-level life form faces a low-level life form, it's completely crushed. No wonder that flood dragon was so confident. It's a pity that he never dreamed that I had the serpent god battleship. Otherwise, if we really fought, the possibility of the snake civilization being destroyed is too high. End quote. Yi Bei narrowed his eyes. After confirming that the attack was ineffective, he no longer hesitated. Since you've provoked us, you'll have to pay the price, he said. Roar. He let out a low roar. Crack, crack. The surrounding space shattered. In the next second, Yi Bei's body, which was only 3 meters long, began to expand at an unbelievable speed in front of the countless machinery race beings. His body also began to release a terrifying aura. 1,000 meters. 10,000 meters. 50,000 meters. It took less than half a second to go from 3 meters to 50,000 meters. That huge body was suspended in the void, and the aura on his body was surging wildly outside. The characteristics of a level 15 life form were revealed at this moment. Wei Zhentian, who was hiding in the space debris, felt the situation, and the fear in his eyes deepened. Before coming to the centaurs, it was no exaggeration to say that Wei Zhentian and the others had infinitely magnified the combat level of the snake civilization. It was also because of this that the automaton race dared to only send out 10 true automaton citizens. But he had never expected the snake civilization to become so powerful. Could it be that after devouring the worm dragon's genes, these bastards evolved again? Even the creature's rank had increased? Wait a minute. Check and see what level this monster is. Wei Jintian growled, and as he reached the end of his sentence, his eyes were fixed on Yi Bei. At the same time, within his body, the intelligent machine was frantically calculating. End quote. Master, this creature is at least level 14, end quote. In less than half a second, he got the answer. However, this answer left Wei Jintian completely dumbfounded. One had to know that even the automaton race was only level 12, and three-body life forms were only level 10. Back then, when the three-body life forms easily reduced the dimension of the entire Milky Way, the former snake civilization did not even have the power to resist. They were probably not even level 6 life forms. But now, he suddenly became level 14? How long had it been? Which one of them didn't go through a long period of accumulation and evolution to cross the ranks of creatures? Wasn't this snake tribe civilization too heaven-defying? Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. Wei Jintian could not figure it out at all. Are you sure there's no mistake? I'm sure. We're in big trouble. This time, Wei Jintian was completely shocked. When he looked at Yi Bei, there was no longer any contempt in his eyes. Wei Jintian wasn't the only one judging Yi Bei's creature rank. When the war started, a large number of apostles resisted the attacks with their bodies and rushed in. The other mechanical lives started to analyze their levels. It would have been better if they didn't analyze it. After they finished, they were equally shocked. End quote. The Blood Moon is currently a level 13 life form. When it unleashes its wings, its diameter is hundreds of thousands of meters, covering the sky and covering the sun. Furthermore, its wings are incomparably tough, and they seem to be made of metal. This level is even higher than the automaton race. End quote. End quote. Wang 1, a reticulated python. Its body is over 90,000 meters long, and it seems to be able to swallow and kill everything. It's a level 13 body. End quote. Caesar, level 13. Yes, all of them were level 13. This was not all. In addition to these apostles, there were also hundreds of billions of creatures that followed behind. There were also differences in levels. Among them, there were countless creatures from level 6 to level 12. When this result was revealed, the machine race army almost forgot how to attack. Trouble, big trouble. End quote. In just 3 months, they've devoured endless energy and become even stronger. End quote. At this rate, there's no way we can fight them. They can also devour our bodies and evolve. Moreover, once they devour us, their evolution will immediately begin. It's like we've fused our bodies into a part of them, and at the same time, they'll become stronger in all aspects. Damn it. The misjudgment this time was too big. What do we do? End quote. How would I know? We can't leave now. They definitely won't let us leave. End quote. End quote. And that universe tree. That thing has blocked many attacks, and it's constantly absorbing the residual energy in the universe. This method is too terrifying. How can such a terrifying creature appear in a low-tier universe? The other 9 automaton life forms that had come with Wei Jintian were all exclaiming in shock. They were the ones who started the war. But now, the power to end the war was not in their hands. After the hundreds of billions of mutated beasts went crazy, their eyes were bloodshot. It was as if they were treating the automaton race as food. Crack, crack. Uft, uft. Finally, the armies clashed into each other. The mutated beasts opened their mouths wide and did not attack much. However, they did not hesitate to bite down on any mechanical life that appeared beside them. The bodies of the automaton race beings were clearly extremely tough, but in front of these mutated beasts, they were like tofu, crushed with a bite. While the mutated beasts were devouring the creatures, on Yi Bei's side, he was even crazier. Roar. His body grew bigger. The blue and gold body exuded a noble aura in the universe. Bang, 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 bang. When the number of machinery life forms around him increased, Yi Bei merely moved his body slightly, and all the mechanical life forms were crushed into pieces like watermelons. He opened his mouth. Crack, crack, crack. At every moment, a large number of mechanical lives were being devoured. His teeth stirred. The crunching sounds continued, as if he was eating beans. Moreover, as he devoured the mechanical life forms, The system's voice constantly rang out in Yi Bei's mind. End quote. Congratulations to the host for successfully devouring a level 12 mechanical life form. You have received 10 genetic points. End quote. End quote. Congratulations to the host for successfully devouring a level 12 mechanical life form. You have received 10 genetic points. End quote. 2. In just a few minutes, the number of mechanical lives Yi Bei had devoured reached several thousand. As for his genetic points, they had increased to over 20,000. Ever since he had become a python. This was the first time Yi Bei had been able to farm points so freely. End quote. If the snake civilization devours nearly 100 billion mechanical lives, we'll definitely be able to easily escape this low-level universe. End quote. Yi Bei thought to himself as he continued devouring the creatures. Wei Zhentian, who was hiding in the spatial fragment, was completely dumbfounded. He didn't dare to go out at this time. He could only keep in contact with the headquarters of the automaton race in this universe. Meanwhile, at the edge of the centaurs, the space snakes that were entrenched here also noticed that something was wrong. When did the machine race become so weak? This shouldn't be the case. A space snake flicked its tongue and asked in confusion. It's not that they're too weak. It's the snake civilization that's too strong. One of them is very similar to a flood dragon, but it's not a flood dragon. The automaton race beings are like tofu in front of him. Immediately, another space snake answered. The snake civilization's power is beyond our expectations. Everyone, do you still have the confidence? The beast god civilization, the three-body civilization, and the machinery civilization all paid a heavy price for this. Confidence? Of course there is. Our space snake's spiritual force is the strongest. The snake civilization has so much potential. If we can control it, that would be perfect. While the space snakes were discussing, in the centaurs, the runes on the surface of the three-body creatures were beating wildly. Initially, when the machinery race invaded, they were filled with endless fear. They had even made preparations to be the vanguard for the snake race civilization. But now, after the creatures of the snake civilization went crazy, they didn't even use their battleships. They directly used their physical bodies to charge into the attack and defense set up by the machine race. Then, it began to devour wantonly. Although the snake civilization had sacrificed a lot in this process, but those who survived were powerful, especially the mutated beasts that had devoured the automaton life forms. Their bodies were immediately covered in a thick layer of metal armor. Their battle strength was increasing at an unbelievable speed. As for the machine race, as the battle grew more intense, their numbers quickly decreased. Its power was also greatly reduced. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. End quote. If this continues, it won't be long before all of the machinery race beings disappear. The snake race civilization is not only our nemesis, but also the nemesis of the machinery race beings. End quote. A three-body being said seriously. End quote. More than that, I feel that the snake tribe civilization is the nemesis of all life. Think about it. With the ability to devour everything, even spatial fragments, what else can resist it? When another three-body being said this, all the three-body life forms were silent at this moment. Crack, crack. The golden lion's body was huge, and it ran quickly in the void. With a move of his claws, countless mechanical lives were split into two and scattered in all directions. He opened his mouth. Sharp fangs were revealed. Some of the mechanical lives in front of him were directly bitten into by him. After chewing a few times, he devoured them all and converted them into energy for his body. Those wounds were instantly healed by the nourishment of the energy. The smell of the automaton race is really good. It's too addictive. The energy contained in it is really abundant, and after swallowing it, I can even feel the metal flowing through my body, becoming a part of it. This feeling is too refreshing. The golden lion kept roaring. Delicious. I'm going to devour them all. Wang Wen did the same, devouring it crazily. The battle continued. 10 minutes later, out of the hundreds of billions of automaton life forms, only less than 100 million had been devoured. On the other hand, although many of the creatures from the snake race civilization had died, they had evolved to become stronger. Each of them could use their physical bodies to block the attacks of the remaining machinery race. Wei Zhentian, who was hiding in the spatial fragment, trembled violently when he saw this. We lost. We'll definitely lose this time. Wei Zhentian's voice was hoarse and cold. Hundreds of billions of machine race life forms had been devoured in such a short time. The life form of the machinery race, which was able to self-replicate infinitely and could continuously repair itself as long as there were metal elements in the universe, was actually helpless at this time. What are they made of? Could it be that there was an endless universe hidden in their stomach? They had devoured so many mechanical life forms. Did they not need to digest them? The essence of the body is clearly different. What's going on? Wei Zhentian growled. No matter how he racked his brains, he could not figure out what was going on. And quote, if it can really devour without end, even our automaton race can be transformed. Then, the automaton race's nemesis in the universe has really appeared. After all, even the bug race can't do this. End quote. Wei Zhentian's voice continued. And NBSB. Yi Bei had devoured a lot of them. He didn't even bother to count the number. However, after devouring countless mechanical lives, Yi Bei could feel the energy in his body rapidly increasing. If he had just evolved into a flood dragon, he wouldn't be considered very powerful among the real flood dragons. But now, Yi Bei was confident that if he could appear in the civilization of the flood dragons, he would definitely be the most powerful existence. Everyone continued to devour all the automaton life forms. Oh right, anything that has their technological records, don't let it go. While strengthening one's own body, technology is equally important. Yi Bei's voice rang out. In the void fragment. When there were less than 50 million members of the machinery race, they were completely surrounded by the creatures of the snake civilization. In all directions, not even a drop of water could leak through. Those automaton life forms, whether in heaven or on earth, would definitely not be able to escape. And quote, Bumblebee, we have to escape. A lot of information about the machinery race that was created in the Centaur constellation is missing, but we are different. We have a lot of knowledge in our memories, and we even brought a large amount of tinder with us. We can't let the snake civilization get that thing. Otherwise, our machinery race will be in great danger. End quote. Wei Zhentian used his methods to speak to the other 9 mechanical lives that had come with him. After the war started, this was especially so when Yi Bei had given Wei Zhentian such a huge shock. These true automaton life forms were all hiding within the space fragments, observing the battle. They didn't dare to risk their lives. End quote. That's right, we have to leave. According to the information we've obtained, after devouring the life forms of our machinery race, not only can these fellows turn us into the energy they need, but they can also directly obtain our memories and technology. This kind of devouring and fusion method is extremely rare even among high-leveled civilizations. Moreover, their numbers are large, and their reproduction rate is also fast. It's hard to imagine what heights they will reach in the future. End quote. The golden robot, Bumblebee, quickly replied. Then, why aren't you running? Let's go immediately. End quote. We can't stay in this place anymore. They have space weapons too. If we get caught, we'll be in trouble. End quote. End quote. Immediately perform a space jump and open a small wormhole. End quote. End quote. By the way, everyone, remember this. If you're caught, you must self-destruct at the first moment and destroy the Allspark. That thing is the core of our civilization. End quote. Yes. These mechanical life forms quickly reached an agreement. As they were speaking, the entire machine race army had been completely annihilated in the universe. As far as the eye could see, there was only the snake civilization's creature that was emitting an incomparably terrifying aura. Run, Wei Zhentian ordered. But, as soon as he gave the order, Yi Bei's voice rang out in their minds. You want to leave after coming? Megatron, Bumblebee, aren't you curious as to why our snake civilization is so powerful and why we can devour without limit? Also, it seems that you have yet to obtain our genes for your research. If you return, can you give an explanation to your home planet? Yi Bei's voice was very cold, and it was filled with a terrifying killing intent. The 10 mechanical lives trembled violently when they heard this. Yes, it was obviously impossible to go back like this. At that time, the outcome would definitely be death. But, What really made them stunned was why such a voice would directly ring out in their minds. This was too outrageous. Who are you? Wei Zhentian asked coldly. And NBSB. At this moment, he faintly recalled some terrifying things. It seemed that he had been discovered by the snake civilization even after he had hidden his aura and entered the centaurs. Furthermore, the snake tribe civilization was able to make sounds appear in his mind. All these methods were extremely bizarre. You've already forgotten? Wei Zhentian, didn't you exchange punches with me before? Yibei's voice was cold. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. It's you? Wei Zhentian's body trembled once again. And NBSB. The punch he had exchanged with Yibei earlier had left a deep impression on him. He could still remember it clearly. And he had also spoken to Yibei before. But at that time, it did not appear directly in his mind. In the fragment space, Wei Zhentian's body kept trembling. End quote. Could it be that your mind power can cover the entire Centaur constellation? Even if we hid our information, everything was still under your control? He asked. When he said this, Wei Zhentian thought of an extremely terrifying matter. Right, Yibei didn't deny it. End quote. Ever since you entered the Centaurs, everything you do has been under my control. In addition, even if you hide in a spatial fragment and place that spatial fragment in an extremely distant place, you still won't be able to escape. Now, I can give you two choices. First, get the hell out here and tell us everything you know. Second, I'll devour all of you and directly obtain all your information, end quote. Yibei's voice was not polite at all, and it even carried a terrifying threat. The 10 automaton life forms hidden within the space fragment all had fear in their eyes. But, as level 12 life forms, these mechanical life forms all had their own dignity. After hearing Yibei's words, they were both terrified and angry, and they quickly exploded. Even if we fall into your hands, we'll still die. Both choices lead to death. However, do you really think that you've got us? If I self-destruct, you guys can forget about getting anything. Wei Zhentian roared. And NBSB. Moreover, this guy was quite courageous. After realizing that it really wasn't Yibei's match and that it might really be devoured, it decisively activated self-destruction mode. At the same time, it also issued a death order to the other 9 mechanical lives. End quote. Start self-destructing immediately. First, destroy the Allspark. We can't let them land on the snake civilization. End quote. His voice was cold and decisive. The other 9 mechanical lives did not hesitate at all. Chi. The next second, they took out the Allspark from the void. The silver crystal floated in the air, exuding an extremely strange power. At the same time, the machine race beings all extended their hands to grab the crystals tightly after they appeared. As their strength increased, terrifying cracks actually began to appear on the crystals. An extremely powerful force rushed out of the Allspark. At that moment, Yibei was also observing everything. In addition, the system's voice rang out directly in Yibei's mind. End quote. User, the Allspark is the core energy source of the machinery race. It is like an artisan. It can directly use that energy to turn lifeless machinery into living things. The Allspark comes from an advanced civilization. User, please take it down, end quote. What? Yibei's eyes lit up when he heard this. I got it. After answering, Yibei immediately shouted, bullet time. And NBSB, bullet time activated. Immediately, Yibei felt as if the entire Centaurs had come to a complete standstill. The golden lion opened its mouth wide and bit off a mechanical life. Its 4 claws were also crushing the mechanical life separately. In the void, those metal parts were floating in the air, creating a beautiful scene. Crack, crack. In the void, within the space fragment, the 10 beings from the machinery race were all holding onto the Allspark. However, there was only a cracking sound. Immediately after, everything seemed to slow down. The bodies of the mechanical life forms also stopped moving. This ability is not bad. Everything around him came to a standstill. Only Yibei's body was suspended in the void of the universe, and he could move freely. Moreover, after he evolved into a worm dragon, Yibei felt that he could control everything when he used this ability. The duration of this ability had also increased significantly, and he could maintain it for at least 1 minute. Crack. Although it would take a long time, Yibei didn't hesitate. After activating bullet time, Yibei locked onto Wei Jintian's position through his mental power domain. With a light swipe of his claws, he tore a hole in the air. Who? Immediately after, Yibei charged into the hole and immediately appeared in front of Wei Jintian. He extended his claws and snatched the allspark away without any hesitation. Then, a distorted space appeared in front of him and sucked Wei Jintian into the forest of death. He did the same thing. Under bullet time, the lives of the 10 machines were all taken away in less than 20 seconds. Yibei had also collected all of the allspark. When he was done, Yibei returned to the void. "It's done." And NBSB, he muttered these 3 words, and the bullet time ability disappeared, returning everything to normal. The mutated beasts were still madly killing the remaining automaton life forms. In the forest of death, when the 10 mechanical lives were sucked in, they were immediately bound by a large number of living vines of the big tree, unable to move at all. At the same time, they were also shocked by the scene. This was because, in the eyes of the automatons, this forest of death was clearly filled with countless universe trees. Any one of those universe trees could directly and completely absorb their bodies. "What is this place?" And quote, "Damn it, why are there so many universe trees here? And there are countless space fragments in this space, and there are countless universe trees in those fragments." End quote. Weren't we self-destructing and destroying the allspark? I just felt my vision go black, and I'm already in this place. End quote. Since when did the snake civilization have such a technique? End quote. How terrifying. However, these universe trees don't seem to be devouring us directly. They're only binding us. Could it be that existences like them are also completely obedient to the snake civilization? After being shocked by the might of the living tree, the machinery race beings that were bound by the vines no longer thought of self-destructing. Instead, they communicated with each other through technological means. As for the area outside the forest of death, by the time Yibei was done, all of the machinery race beings had been devoured by the mutated beasts in less than a minute. He didn't miss a single thing in the entire centaurs. Moreover, after the mutated beasts had finished devouring, they seemed to be evolving collectively. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World, site only. However, at this time, Yibei remained coiled up in the void and didn't immediately return to the forest of death. Instead, he fully released his mental power domain, and he could clearly sense the space snakes hiding at the edge of the Centaur constellation. At such a time, the space snakes couldn't hold on any longer. The destruction of the machine race vanguard had brought them unprecedented pressure. When they were hiding at the edge of the centaurs, they were really shocked by the terrifying scene, and now they were having a heated discussion.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.